Have you ever felt yourself drawn to someone you know you shouldn't want? Not because they're a stranger, not because they're out of reach, but because they belong to someone else, someone close to you. What happens when that tension builds so quietly, so slowly, that by the time you realize it's there, it's already too late? That's where my story begins. I never set out to be the woman who notices her best friend's boyfriend before she does. But when Kara introduced me to Jason, something in me shifted. He wasn't the kind of man who tried too hard. His shirts always looked like he'd just thrown them on, his hair had that careless scruff, and his smile, God, his smile, could make you forget what you were about to say. He had this easy charm, the kind that sneaks into a room and takes over before you realize it. And maybe Kara noticed, maybe she didn't. She was the kind of girl who believed the world bent around her, who laughed easily and lived quickly. That night, when she first introduced him, she nudged me and said, "This is Jason. Don't believe everything that comes out of his mouth." Jason winked and said, "Depends on the day." I laughed when I shouldn't have, and from that moment on, things shifted. He started coming around often, movie nights, dinners, hikes. I'd find myself hyper-aware of how close he stood, how his hand brushed mine when it didn't need to, how his eyes lingered too long. I told myself it was harmless, that it was nothing. After all, I had someone too, at least technically. Evan and I were on and off, a mess of canceled plans and unanswered calls. But none of that mattered because it wasn't really about Evan. It was about Jason and the strange, magnetic pull he had on me. The night of Kara's backyard party, things took a turn I didn't expect. She insisted I stay over, claiming I always left too early. The night was warm, sticky with summer air, and after too many drinks, Kara disappeared upstairs with some cousins. By midnight, it was just Jason and me by the fire pit, the flames flickering between us. "She's been distant lately," he said, eyes fixed on the fire. "Maybe she doesn't know how to say what she's feeling," I offered. "And you do." He glanced at me then, his expression heavy. "Sometimes," I said softly. The silence that followed wasn't empty. His hand hovered too close to mine, close enough to make my breath catch. I don't remember who leaned in first, maybe both of us, but just as it was about to happen, Kara's voice rang from the upstairs window. "Jason, come up here." He froze, looking at me with something I couldn't name. Then he stood, brushed himself off, and walked away. That night, lying in the guest room, every sound made me wonder if he'd come to my door. He never did. At breakfast, Kara was bright and hungover. Jason avoided my eyes. I smiled when I had to, but the memory of that almost kiss burned hotter than if it had actually happened. I told myself it ended there, but deep down I knew better. Because silence doesn't erase temptation. It only feeds it. The next morning, I wandered into the kitchen, expecting quiet. Instead, Jason walked in shirtless, towel in hand, his hair damp from the shower. My heart thudded. He poured juice straight from the bottle, leaned against the counter, and asked casually, "Kara still asleep?" "Yeah," I answered, clutching my coffee mug like it might save me. We stood in that charged silence, neither of us pretending very well. Then he broke it. "You didn't pull away last night." My grip on the mug tightened. "Neither did you." He stepped closer, took the cup from my hands, and before I could think, his lips were on mine. It wasn't gentle. It was heat, frustration, guilt, and want all tangled together. We stumbled to the guest room, hands desperate, hearts racing. But then, it didn't happen. His body betrayed him. He cursed under his breath, pulling back in frustration. "I don't know what's wrong with me," he muttered, sitting at the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. I wrapped the blanket around myself, torn between disappointment and relief. "This didn't happen," he finally said, his voice flat. "Okay," I whispered, though the lie burned in my throat. He dressed quickly and left the room without another word. I sat there for what felt like hours, listening to the silence, unsure if I hated him or myself more. Days passed. A week of no calls, no texts. Silence. Then Kara invited me over again, insisting she needed girl time. Against my better judgment, I went. Jason was in the kitchen, slicing limes. He glanced up, gave me a small nod, and nothing more. At dinner, Kara laughed, carefree, and at one point, she said something that nearly made me choke. "I don't know what's gotten into him lately," she said with a grin. "He's been extra sweet and better in bed, too." Her laugh was light, but it felt like a knife in my ribs. Jason didn't look at me, but I felt the tension in his silence. Later, Kara rushed out to pick up her cousin from the airport, leaving us alone again. The moment the door shut, the air shifted. I busied myself rinsing glasses, but Jason came closer. Too close. "You didn't text," I whispered. I didn't know what to say. "You didn't want to say anything," I shot back. He paused, then his voice lowered. I didn't stop thinking about it. I turned, heart pounding. His eyes held mine, and this time, there was no interruption, no hesitation. His kiss was different, more certain, more demanding. My body responded before my mind could catch up. And this time, there was no pause, no failure. The line we'd been dancing around finally shattered. When it was over, the silence pressed heavier than before. I curled my knees to my chest, half wrapped in guilt. "Did that mean anything to you?" I asked. "Yes," he said quickly. But when I pressed him again, his answer faltered. "It meant something in the moment. That was all I got." Kara came back 15 minutes later, cheerful, thanking Jason for staying behind. She kissed his cheek like nothing was wrong, like nothing had happened. I forced myself to smile, but inside, I was unraveling. That night, lying awake in the guest room, I couldn't stop replaying it. Not just the act, but the way it felt inevitable. The way he kissed me like he had something to prove. The way I didn't stop him. On the drive home the next morning, I realized something devastating. The real betrayal wasn't what we did. It was that I didn't regret it. Because once that line is crossed, you can't go back. He was in my head now, even when he wasn't around. And I knew, deep down, that this wasn't over. Because men like Jason don't walk away from temptation. They circle it. And women like me? We wait, even when we shouldn't.